Right now, Anthony Richardson, in our expert mock drafts, is easily making it into the first round of next year's draft. But how long will that last, given the way he's playing right now? The Florida quarterback, back-to-back disappointing games. Not just that, he has yet to throw a single touchdown pass at all. Not one this season. He did throw one to the other team. There's no mistaking his athletic ability, though, his potential, his ability to use his legs. And maybe that is why, when you take a look at Ryan Wilson, our draft expert, his top 5 quarterback rankings, where they stand right now, he has Anthony Richardson coming in second behind CJ Stroud at Ohio State, but above Will Levis and above Alabama quarterback, Heisman winner, Bryce Young. Ryan, we're going to talk about potential draft prospects. We're going to watch this weekend. We're going to go through some of the guys you saw there. You have to walk us through, though, 1 through 5 and kind of give us your explanation. And I'm also not sure if this is who you like or just kind of the rumor mill that teams like when it comes to potential with some of these guys.
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's a little bit of both. CJ Stroud at the top, he's off to a great start so far. Why is Anthony Richardson number 2? And you talked about it, Amanda. The last 2 games have not been great in terms of upping his stock. That first game against Utah was really impressive. But when you talk to teams, they are so intrigued by the athletic traits, both with his arm inside the pocket, his ability to run, and the things he's capable of doing. And you have to remember, he didn't even throw 50 passes last season. So he is the definition of developmental as we sit here. But the upside is through the roof. And that's what makes him so exciting when you see plays like this and the playmaking ability with his legs, but also his ability to whip the ball down the field. He reminds me a little bit of Dante Culpepper back in the day and some Josh Allen out of Wyoming. I mean, not very many people can make this throw. So that's the intrigue there. Then when you go to Will Levis at number 3, he's a guy that's on the rise. The former Penn State transfer is off to a good start. That Florida game was not as tough for him as it was for Richardson, but he is going to be a good NFL player. He looks like someone you would build in a lab if you're trying to build a quarterback. Arm strength, good in the pocket, and actually pretty mobile. Bryce Young, the only issue, Amanda, is his size. He's listed at about 190, 195. He's probably a little lighter than that. He's listed around 6 feet. He may be shorter than that, but if he were 6'2", 220, he'd be probably the first overall pick. That's how good he is. Just concerns about the durability. And finally, Devin Larry. Shout out to Will Brinson at NC State there. Devin Larry's played well this season. I know that sounds like I'm trying to prop up our guy at Pick 6 Podcast. He's been really good, better than some of the other quarterbacks we talked about coming into the year. So I like him as a sleeper here at number 5.
Look, NC State, I believe they're ranked 12th for good reason right now. So let's jump into the games we're going to see this weekend and talk about some potential draft prospects. You talked about Anthony Richardson. We have the SEC on CBS. Florida at Tennessee there. So I'm curious. I want to talk a little bit more about Anthony Richardson, maybe how quickly he needs to start showing you guys what he can do, and then maybe somebody on the Tennessee side as well.
Right, so it would be nice to see a little more consistency from Richardson, no doubt about it, and I think we will get that as we get through this process. Again, he is so short on reps that he is learning as he's going, more so than a veteran quarterback, and a lot of times because of COVID, we have quarterbacks that have in year 5, year 6. One of those quarterbacks, by the way, beating Hendon Hooker on the other side, who's a 6-year starter. Another guy to keep an eye on, but another person on the Tennessee side that I will be watching closely, wide receiver Cedric Tillman, who's about 6'2", 215, had a huge game a few weeks ago, 9 receptions, over 130 receiving yards. You see it here against Pitt. Play after play he made. Now listen, he is not a burner in that he is going to beat you off the line of scrimmage with sheer quickness and athleticism. He's a big target. He reminds me in a lot of ways of N'Keal Harry, and I mean that in a good way. N'Keal Harry, coming out of Arizona State, was able to make these plays by stretching the defense with his physicality and making the high point catches, the tough catches coming back to the ball, the things we see here. So Richardson will be the guy to see. And then on the other side, Hendon Hooker and how Cedric Tillman plays after he left the game last week early with an injury, but he should be ready to go this weekend.
Ryan, we also have Vandy at Alabama here, your latest mock draft. Now, granted, it was 15 days ago, but you did have one quarterback in the first round. That was Texas's Bijan Robinson there. But what about Jahmyr Gibbs at Alabama?
He is fun. Now, Bijan Robinson is built. He reminds me a little bit of Sean Alexander back in the day. This is not what Gibbs is. He's more of a Dalvin Cook type back. He's incredibly shifty in the backfield. He can make guys miss in small areas, and then he explodes through the hole. He's a sub 4.5 guy coming into the season. in terms of when they ran this summer, I think, is when they got that number. He plays that fast and maybe a little faster. If he gets on the corner, that's a wrap. You're not going to be able to catch up to him. He runs through arm tackles, and he's able to make plays out of the backfield in the passing game, which is incredibly important in today's NFL. So he can beat you in a number of ways, and he's a huge get for this Alabama offense that lost Brian Robinson to the NFL. Again, Georgia Tech could have certainly used him this year. He is not there, and you see him here making plays in the pass game and then running through these tackles and getting first downs, and that's a big part of what he does. He can go between the tackles, but he's primarily outside is where he does most of his damage, and we've seen that week in and week out early in the season.
Alabama 40.5-point favorite at home, a game that might be a little bit closer. It's going to be a fun one, not really getting overlooked. A lot more people talking about it. Tulsa at number 16, Ole Miss here. The focus in this game is going to be Tulsa's offense, quarterback Davis Brin versus Ole Miss's defense, doing very well so far this season. But you are looking at someone on Ole Miss's offense, running back Zach Evans. What do we need to know about him?
Yeah, he's another transfer, came from TCU, and he's similar to the Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of the body type and the role he plays. He's not going to give you a lot as a receiver, and that's something he needs to work on. He had a couple key drops in last week's game, but he racked up incredible yardage against Georgia Tech here, and you can see it. He only had 4 carries, and he got the most out of them. And he, again, a transfer who came into this offense and does a lot of things you want to do in terms of hitting the hole and going. He doesn't have quite the wiggle in the backfield that Jahmyr Gibbs has, but he's a one-cut-and-go guy. He can run between the tackles, and he's always falling forward, even though he's not 225. You see him here in the open field. You're not going to catch up to him, a sub-4.5 guy, and that shows up on tape. That Ole Miss offense, talking about the defense, the Ole Miss offense actually does some things well, too, with Jackson Dart, the transfer from USC. But Zach Evans is key to what they do in terms of getting going with the balance on that side of the ball.
Ryan, we saw a lot of quarterbacks jumping around, including Bo Nix heading over to Oregon. Number 15 Oregon at Washington State this weekend. It's been a long road for Bo Nix, but now that he's there, we're starting to see some of his best numbers, the best numbers of his career. How much is he helping himself right now?
A lot. I watched the Michigan State game again this morning, and I was blown away. I didn't know that Bo Nix had a lot of that in him. We know he can run, he can use his feet, and he did that at times in that beatdown at Michigan State. But he made some tight window throws, especially over the middle of the field, a couple of the touchdown variety, that really got your attention. He is accurate. The ball comes out on time. He's not making poor decisions. He can push the ball down the field. Look, he can be the game manager if that's what you want, but when he was asked to push the ball on those intermediate and long routes, he was really good at it, and he did it consistently. The Michigan State defense can get after you up front. Some questions in the secondary, sure, whatever. You play the guys on your schedule. He has done nothing but help himself after leaving Auburn, where it turns out Auburn's having their own quarterback concerns as we sit here, so perhaps Auburn might have been better off with Bo Nix, but his time was up there. He's out in Oregon now, and he's making the most of a situation and playing at an extremely high level.
Let's talk about Stanford at Washington here. Washington is hyped coming off that win against Michigan State. I was looking at Chris Trapasso's latest mock draft. He has Michael Penix Jr., Washington's quarterback, now sneaking into the first round. What do you think about him? And on the other side, Stanford's quarterback as well.
Yeah, that's right. I should say Bo Nix beat up on BYU. It was Michael Penix who beat up on Michigan State. Thanks for that subtle correction there. I needed that. But here's the thing, man. Michael Penix, another guy who had a long career at Indiana, sidelined mostly by injuries, ended up transferring and coming to Washington. Expectations were, I don't know, let's see what happens. He looks good, and he looks good to the point where I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm going to anyway, just so Pete Prisco can text me about it. He reminds me a little bit, Amanda, of Tua. Now, part of that is that he's left-handed, but the ball comes out on time. He's athletic behind the line of scrimmage. He doesn't run a ton. Great deep ball touch. Look at this. I mean, he did that a lot in that game last week, and it was fun to watch. Didn't make many mistakes. Had a few reads where you wish he hadn't forced the ball in the coverage, but he did a lot of things that were impressive, and I'm sure Washington's glad to have him. On the other side, Tanner McKee, he's the latest in a long line of Stanford quarterbacks who look to be about 8 feet tall. Davis Mills obviously was the third-round pick of the Texans a few years ago. McKee is a guy that scouts are interested in seeing continue to develop. He doesn't have the arm strength of Davis Mills. The ball comes out on time. The ball comes out quickly. He knows where to go with it. I would like to see a little more consistency from him. But again, the Stanford program isn't where it once was a few years ago, and sometimes they struggle in terms of the competition. But this is an opportunity for him to show what he can do. And they have some players on that team that are going to get drafted. Elijah Higgins, the wide receiver, is another guy to keep an eye on. But Tanner McKee needs to start playing with a little more consistency, a little better to give Stanford a chance in this game.
Ryan, I was this close, if I had more time, to texting Pete to ask him about your top 5 quarterbacks there. Maybe a segment for another day. But for now, you're in the clear, right? Ryan Wilson, thanks so much. Ryan, part of the Pick Six podcast, their latest episode, everything you need to know about the NFL. Taking a look ahead to Steelers-Browns Thursday Night Football, a preview there. Also, Vikings-Lions, breaking that one down with former NFL quarterback Brady Quinn.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.